Hey everybody, welcome to GT Live. I am Brandon Jones, your host. I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Bossman. He's going to be in chat speaking with the community. I love an episode like tonight because it is all around one game. We are playing this game. We are talking about this game. We are giving this game away. That game is Oxenfree. We have 2 codes. Kyle's going to be taking questions for our guests, and we're giving away 2 codes for Oxenfree. And we have the CEO of Night School Studio, who's responsible for Oxenfree, Mr. Sean Krankle. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, of course.
We have Brittany Johnson, who is in Oxenfree. She plays the role of Nona. And we have Adam Hines, who is chilling over there by himself on the couch. Nice and cozy, who is actually going to be running through as little of the game as possible, I imagine, because you want to keep spoilers out of it.
Yes.
And you are the creative director at Night School.
Yes.
And congratulations, you guys, on launching the game.
Thank you.
I'm seeing lots of good buzz around the game. I mean, I reviewed it. My review went up yesterday. I loved it. Awesome. I thought it was really great. It was a very, very haunting game. I think haunting is something that kind of permeates the entire experience. Like the way the characters act is haunting. The way this island looks is very haunting. The music, it kind of really gets in your head, as it goes along. But how has the launch been for you so far?
It's been great. Yeah, and the haunting thing is really interesting because like a lot of people, I think, as they look at it on the surface, they sort of think, oh, should he be playing it?
Ian. Oh, and we have Ian Hank on the controls. Ian, the volume is loud in the telly. He's gonna go turn the volume down.
Oh,
Okay.
One thing before we start, actually, I'm taking your questions, and you get those codes by sending questions to @GameTrailers.
Correct.
And so please give us questions.
So you are at Game Trailers in chat right now.
Yes, exactly.
Kyle is the voice of Game Trailers.
Yep.
If you throw a good question at him that is then answered by our guests, you may possibly get a free code for Oxenfree.
Cool.
Yes, awesome.
Oxenfree for free.
Haha. Yeah, so I think that's something that's probably been the most surprising thing for a lot of people that had only seen a little bit of the trailers and teasers in advance is just how sort of dark and psychologically weird it gets the further you get into it. And so that's been exciting. That's why we'll try to remain pretty spoiler-free today because the first hour or two is really just setting up sort of the emotional and social dynamics between all these characters, and then that really leads into the supernatural beings on the island messing with you, and that's all I'll say.
So we are GameTrailers.com. I'm obsessed with trailers. I like to get my employees as obsessed as possible. Was that tricky for you in advertising the game, in that you wanted people to understand these characters and you want to tease the supernatural elements, but obviously you don't want to show too much. You don't want to show the entire island,
Yeah.
because you are kind of going back to these spots again and again. Was that tricky?
It was, yeah, especially, there were 2 things. One was it was tricky to not be spoilery when there's a game that relies very heavily on the plot and the interactions with these characters. The other thing was just like, as you guys know, as you look at a ton of trailers, a lot of trailers are BS, a lot of
Most
them
of
are
them.
full, right, most, if not all. And so we, coming out of the gate, we're like, we don't want to overpromise anything. Like, we're not showing some crazy action sequence that the game doesn't have in it. Everything that you're seeing in there is stuff that really is in the game. And so I think we did a pretty good job of that, just like not over-promising stuff. Because a lot of people would even be like, oh, those glitch cuts in the trailer, like, why are they in there? And it's like, no, that's really in the game. Like, as somebody who now has seen it, like, that's all how the game almost starts to break down and play with you while you're going through it. And then from a story perspective, yeah, like the first trailer we put out was very focused on the setting and the feeling, and then the second trailer was more like, how do we get you attached to Alex? Because really you're going to be playing as Alex, who's this senior in high school that's kind of going into her senior year and going out to party that night, and it's like, how do we make her not just feel like an archetype, but feel like a person that you want to be, and then who are all these other people you want to hang out with? So yeah, it's tough to do in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Hopefully we did pretty good at it.
And Brittany, you play Nona, who is a friend of Alex.
Yes.
I would say possibly the most... Oh, sorry?
Oh, no, I was like,
Yep. I would say possibly the most distant character from her. I don't know. We can at least set up the media relationship.
Sure.
So you have her Alex's stepbrother, the girlfriend of Alex's late brother,
Yes.
and a friend who Alex has known for a long time. Was that kind of intentional to kind of put them at different kind of like distances from Alex? Have someone who's really close, a close family member, but not someone she's only known for days of weeks or months, and someone that she's known for a really long time, someone she has a really a female character who she has a really dark history with, a lot of bad blood there potentially, and someone who doesn't necessarily have an opinion.
yeah, she comes in the game closer to Clarissa. And then as you play the game, especially if you choose to play with Nona, you get closer to Nona. So you learn more about her story and about her as a character. So
I chose to play with you. When I was given the shot, I was like, well, we haven't had a
those
powwow
other two
yet. I want to get to know her.
jackasses. Yeah, I mean, the sort of construct of all of the characters was definitely intended to be something where if the player, like, the moment you start the game, ideally you're not being dropped into a situation that you're like, oh, I should already be feeling sorry for this character and this and that, because you don't know these people. So Adam did a really great job in terms of like constructing a set of people and circumstances that are just like known enough, but especially like in the case of Jonas, who's your new stepbrother, you're meeting him the exact same moment that the player is. You know, like Alex, and you don't really know much about him, so there's a bit of baggage that's there that you're like, did he like punch a cop? I think I heard that he punched a cop, and like, did he go to jail? Like, what's up with this guy? And you kind of want to feel him out. So yeah, it's definitely. I don't know, Adam, if you or is he mic'd? Can you speak? Oh, perfect.
Feel free to put subtitles on. I love that you're answering all of these dialogue options.
Oh yeah, you should put.
I'm sure you have memorized, but you can throw the subtitles. I mean, you don't have to. I just
probably. But instead of
I'm sure you know the game very well, but that might be a little tricky.
yeah, just
responding with that.
See what they're talking about.
But speaking about dialogue really quick, one thing that I touched on a little bit in my review, but that I really appreciate about this game, and that I don't think I've played a lot of other adventure-ish games like it that gave me this opportunity, and that is, I hate it when I'm watching a science fiction film or even just like a crime drama or something, and someone is accused of a crime that they didn't commit. And you know they didn't. You know, you are given that information as a viewer, and you're watching this person be thrown into this really difficult situation, and they're acting crazy. And you're like, calm down. Right. You'll do a much better job professing your innocence if you stop screaming at everybody. You know, and so you kind of lose that character because you're like, I believe in you because you didn't do this, but I would not handle this situation like this at all. And there are a lot of situations in Oxenfree where you're just kind of thrown in, and the dialogue options are present for you to freak out. But I liked having the option not to say something and just to kind of see how this scene's going to play out, or kind of testing. You know, if I suddenly found myself in a different situation, you know, instantaneously, how would I react? Would I be the one in the room freaking out, or would I be able to just kind of go along with it and try to guess, like, what did happen in the last 5 minutes and what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably one of the top 3 or 4 design challenges for making a game like that, is always ensuring that the player has something that they might want to say. Because if you do want to freak out, then that option should be there, right, Adam? Like, I don't know if that's kind of probably what was always running in the back of your head, I would imagine, is like, I don't want the player to feel wanting for choices, you know?
Yes. Yeah. It was definitely just a matter of knowing everything that the player would want to do or want to say, but also keeping it within the realm of what the character of Alex would want to do and want to say. So it's not like you can just pull out a gun and start shooting people. That's not what Alex would ever naturally do, but just kind of giving you a hopefully natural feeling range within her. Yeah.
Well, I noticed that in recording, but I like to play games and I love a good story, and the dialogue in it is like they're things you would actually say. I play a lot of games where I'm like, this doesn't feel right, but I choose this. I choose this. But Oxenfree, it's like talking to your best friend in high school. It's like things you can freak out. You can be like, no, dude. Like either way.
I've seen a lot of comparisons between the teenage dialogue in this and games like Life is Strange, where, you know, it can be tempting to kind of throw some slang in there and make the kids sound hip and stuff. And like a lot of people were complimenting Oxenfree on just having this very natural sound and being able to communicate naturally when they're talking to the other characters. I wonder, you know, there's a lot of starts and stops. I mean, even just now in talking with each other, like, we're not speaking in perfect lines. You know, we're kind of stopping and starting as we have new thoughts or trying to, you know, really articulate. Was that all written out specifically on the page for you, or were you allowed to kind of improvise and make the lines seem a little more conversational?
That was actually it was all written out. He did a really good job at actually writing everything out and it feeling natural, not me being like, actually, can I say it this way? In the booth, I would just say it and be like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. All right.
Adam's writing process is interesting because, like, you'll read the script and there are, like, all the ums and ahs and stutters and this and that, like, about it, that even as you're reading it on the page, it might feel a little like, is that naturalistic? And then the actor, like, blazes through it and you're like, wow, that really has a good flow to it. Like, it just fit like a glove. Like, it definitely... You're welcome. I'm just showering you with praise.
Yeah. So you wrote the whole script too?
Yes. It took a while. It ended up being a 1,200-page script. Wow.
What is the? Oh my God, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Is that one document?
Yes, it's in one Word doc that you can print out, and it's just a roll of toilet paper, nonsense.
It's a scroll.
Yeah, it's a nightmare to like look at and actually try and process, because it's all like, okay, if you pick this, then jump down to here, and then you can jump back up, and just trying to keep track of it all. Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to keep track?
No, they chopped it up for me pretty easily. I mean, I just read from an iPad, so they would send it in an email, and it would just be the scenes were chopped up. So I wasn't like going through the document being like, okay, page 50, page 51, 52. It wasn't that difficult at all. Yeah.
Well, because there are, some instances where, again, I gotta like tread so lightly around this. Like
Just
you
the
might
first half.
see
Anything in the first half is cool.
You might see your friends doing things that are weird, or
Yes,
certain characters
yes.
might be doing something that is not necessarily something they would do, and that's strange and scary and mysterious.
Yeah.
And I wonder, was there like, abbreviations or labels for certain kind of, attitudes or behaviors for characters? Like, okay, we're going back to this type of thing now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's super challenging, I think, for all the actors who did. You guys all did such an amazing job, like jumping around with that, because the way the script is structured and the way that our recording sessions went was every time there would be a branching moment of dialogue choices, then that means that there's probably a pretty branching array of emotions that need to be conveyed. So they would have to read this line like you're flipping out, and then 2 seconds later, read this line like you're really happy with this or whatever. So even from an emotional perspective, there was that. Then on top of that, yes, some of those other weirder scenes that happened later. Like there was one time that we had her we're like, can you just mumble for the next 10 minutes? Like, and she's like, yeah, I guess. And it was.
I'm like, what
very
do you want me
awkward.
to
Yeah.
mumble about? And they're like, just anything, just do it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like looking around at things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that everybody had to get into the groove of being like schizo to try and get through this script, because it's just the way it's structured. Like there's no way to kind of go, okay, here's the really nice way to get through this. It's all kind of every emotion at any given moment in the game.
Were there always 5 friends? Was that how long did you since you've rested on that?
That's that was like there was so much of it that came together pretty organically over time in terms of why certain choices were made. Like in the very beginning when we started scoping the game out, it was going to be 4 friends who were potentially individually playable and they had superpowers. Like that was like the very beginning version of the game. And then we also had the supernatural story that we wanted to tell, and we also had the coming of age story that we wanted to tell, and those two things just kept going God, it's just at odds with these kids having superpowers and stuff. Like Chronicle is awesome and doing something in that I don't know if you guys have seen Chronicle, right? Awesome movie. Seen it? Yeah,
Kyle hasn't seen it.
I haven't seen. No.
You should see it. It's great. It's really
That's
good.
what everyone says. Yeah.
It's good. It's worth checking out.
But that at the same time is like, okay, you're right. We gotta move on with this interview. You know what? No, I'm not. I don't get into it, or the person who wrote it, or anything.
I know these stories.
Okay.
So the that's so great. But that stuff was at odds with the story that we wanted to tell. So it just kept getting closer and closer to then being like, no, we want one character who you play as and who you really care about and who you can, it's a coming of age story where you determine how the protagonist comes of age. And so being set in that scenario, you don't want to play as 4 other characters with, superpowers and stuff. It might be another awesome game, but each of the friends or the other people that are in the story really represent either a weakness or something of Alex's that is fun to kind of play off of over time. So that's why they're not a bunch of best friends, right? They're not all we're a gang of homogenized kids who just want to solve weird crime things. Some of them have beef, some of them have crushes. They all have hopefully fairly realistic feeling dynamic.
Is it bad for me to start to recast them as the Scooby-Doo gang? Was
Go for
that
it.
there was definitely that point in there where I was like, wait a minute, they all kind of.
There's
I didn't even think about that.
or Ren is Shaggy.
Ren's
Ren's
totally
kinda
Shaggy.
Shaggy,
Yeah, Ren's totally Shaggy.
Really?
Course, just
I
kinda got
love
down
I think a little bit
Shaggy.
more.
That would
Sorry.
be Nona. Okay.
Yeah, Nona. And Nona is, what's her name? Velma?
Yeah,
kinda?
Nona's definitely Velma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ren
All right,
is
guys.
That was
the
not
dog.
intentional. You're not Velma, don't worry. But yeah, I think the 5 character thing came about also just from even design choices of how many characters can we squeeze on screen at once with this camera. A lot of the stuff that we did in terms of how you interact with the game all came from this central choice of we want you to be able to walk and talk without ever having cutscenes and interact with the world and explore without ever having cutscenes. So that led us to the dialogue bubbles popping up over their head. That led us to the camera being pulled back pretty far to accommodate multiple characters and to see different paths and stuff. And then we're like, well, we can't stick 20 people. We're not going to go like into a city with our characters, right? So it really all came from maybe more mechanical choices that kind of led to some of the story stuff.
I like the colored, all of their dialogue bubbles are colored, so whenever someone's talking, so you are talking right now.
Orange.
And yeah, your little orange thing will pop up. But I love it when they'll get on radios and you'll see a little radio tower and like
Pop out.
little red
Awesome.
thing will pop out.
That came in late, actually. Like that choice came in hot, and the team was like, we're not going to get it in time, and we're like, it'll be awesome, and then it worked. Yeah, I think it worked pretty well. Yeah.
But I think it does a good job. I'm glad that made it in the game because I think it does a good job of setting up where because some of the voices come in and like I can tell it's a loudspeaker, but I don't know. Oh, that's pointing me kind of in that direction.
Yeah.
So I wonder, Brittany, was there any stress, or did you put stress on Brittany or anyone in the cast?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, all the time.
because if you have I think if you have we were briefly before the show we were talking about Telltale and a lot of the adventure games that they make, and a lot of that obviously is the excellent performances that have been brought to the various franchises they've done. But obviously the animators have a great responsibility of like putting that emotion in their faces. In the case of Game of Thrones, recreating these famous characters and the actors that play them and making that look realistic, where you're very far from all of these people, and so it's really just their voices, I think, not just, but it mostly their voices that are really going to carry a lot of the emotional influence of this story. Was there any pressure there? Like, did you tell the cast like it's all on you guys, because you're going to be guiding the story? I mean, in a lot of instances,
Yeah.
scary things will happen. You just have like a little bit of animation and a whole lot of
again,
voice.
from being a fan of these types of games, like I want it to be believable, and so I wanted the emotions to come out of the character, and I don't know, they were great to work with in the booth because they would be there on the other side being like, okay, we need you to get to this point, we need you to bring it up a notch, or bring it down a notch, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say. There's a part where she has to get really emotional.
Oh, right. Yeah, don't say that part.
Okay.
But
yeah. And that was exciting to do. And easier than I thought because like at that point I cared enough about the character and the story that it was easy to get there. But yeah, it wasn't a lot of pressure like don't mess this up. But like the game is on you. Yeah, no. But I put a lot of pressure on myself just because I wanted it to be awesome.
Yeah, I think we and you were awesome. I think that early on we started to talk about it as, because we're not going to be able to cut away to, like, we're not going to be able to use what a lot of either TV shows or what the Telltale games do, where you can cut for emotion. We were like, this is more like a stage play, actually. And, like, you have to do it. Everything has to be sort of a little bit larger so that, one, we were always trying to get the actors to, in general, kind of just read their lines a little bit faster, because even though it feels very naturalistic to read at the speed that we all kind of talk to each other right now, once it's in-game and their characters are this big, it's like it has to have sort of a zip. I don't know. Like, it should just be moving, Yeah. So that was kind of one thing. And then from an animation perspective too, like the animations have to be larger than life. Like if we were to zoom in and see these characters doing these animations now, they would look ridiculous because they're really big, kind of like dramatic sort of movements and stuff. And so there was a lot of stuff we ended up playing with that. Like one thing was the animation, one thing was how do we get these performances to be faster and a little bit bigger, and then also, there's a bit of like an echo and a little bit of stuff going on in the sound design to at least imply some separation from the characters, because obviously, like, if this were real life, we look, 500 feet away from them right now. So that speaking volume felt initially a little bit too intimate that they had, and so there's stuff going on in the sound design too to hopefully separate that out. So yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that we just massaged over time, and that frankly feels really scary until it all comes together. Like before it comes together, you're like, oh my god, they're not moving enough. Oh my god, there's no VO in. Oh my god, this sucks. And then like it all comes together, you're like, it's working.
So I have a question. Sean, we introduced you as CEO of Night School, but it sounds like you're clearly like very working on this game intensely. And what's weird is, we talk to indie game developers a lot. We talk about developing the game, but recently you're just talking about directing talent a lot, which isn't an easy thing. That's a whole other skill to have.
Yeah.
Where did you develop that?
I don't have the CEO skill. I have
Yeah.
skill. That I definitely the CEO hat is like only as old as Night School is right now. And then
Yeah.
before that I was a game designer and producer for the last 15 years. So just working on different games. I was at Vivendi Universal and at Disney, and so that skill set, I think, when Adam and I started the company, our main goal was like, let's not try to do something that is outside of our, not necessarily comfort zone, but just skill set. Because had we gone, we're going to do a multiplayer shooter, we'd be dead in the water right now. Or had we said, let's do a crazy RTS, like even if we like those types of games, the team, our core passion is like storytelling and games that are rooted in that and a particular style. So I think, a lot of things went sideways during development, as they always do, but the one thing I think we did really well was upfront going like, okay, what do we know that the 5 of us can like kick ass at? And then if stuff is going to go crazy, which it will, so be it, but at least we know our core is there. And so, I hope that all worked out.
What made you good at like directing people, at directing voice actors?
I don't know. I think so. Okay, so I started as a PA at Disney Feature Animation, and I got to watch John Lasseter direct a lot of people, and I sat in the booth with him during all of the recording for Bug's Life and for Toy Story 2.
That's pretty
And
cool.
so that
That's
was
all right.
crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and I was like this 19-year-old PA fresh out of the Midwest, and I'm like, yeah, this is life in LA, right? Like I'm around these, and it never was like that again. But at that moment, I'm like, this is how it's gonna be forever. Like hanging out with this John Lasseter guy, whoever that is, and
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Right, no, literally, I was feeding, what's his name? Oh my God, no, Tim Allen, I'm feeding him his lines. Like, I was on the other
That's
side
so
being
weird.
Woody. It was super weird. And he's like tearing into me, calling me a piece of whatever. So, anyways, yeah, I think.
Wait, is that
I think
part
it's
true?
In a good way.
That's 100% true. I'm not kidding. He's kind of an interesting dude. He's another person who has a long trail of stories.
Were you doing a bad job? Did you deserve
No, I
it?
was just trying. I was just a little
I need to hear both sides of the
little
story.
tight
I
on
don't
the.
know.
Yeah,
I'm not
you-
gonna-
I'm not
Get him
gonna
in
throw
here
Tim
next
Allen
week.
under
Yeah,
the
He's like,
yeah.
you guys should.
There's always
Actor.
3 sets to every story. So so I did that, and then I left Disney, and then I went into game production and development, and then you just get thrown in the deep end, and so it's like you just learn from what's working or doesn't. And it's funny that we're going back to that. The speed of actors thing, I learned watching him say that, because he would just be saying like, yeah, your performance is great right now, and I don't mean to sound insulting, but you have to read it twice as fast. Like, and it works though. It actually ends up working sort of in the work. So yeah, I don't know. I think that in the case of Adam and I, the other funny thing is we've never worked together before, and we're cousins. Oh, we forgot to mention that. We are cousins.
Oh, there
Did
we
you
go.
guys
The
know
plot
that? Swear to God,
thickens.
we are
No.
cousins.
Okay.
We are cousins. We look different, but we are cousins. Just a smidge different. Yeah, so we grew up together and made dumb VHS movies when we were kids together.
Bless you,
They
sir.
weren't
Yes.
dumb.
They were incredible.
Yeah.
Are
We
they
actually
online?
had one that was a game review show called Game Schmo. You're welcome.
Is it online? Can we see it?
No, you could see it, but we'll have to go have a
Yes.
drink
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
It's not
Just put
online.
Game Schmo, like
Game
just make
Schmo.
it deleted.
It's
And
so bad.
hide it in one of your
No.
games.
Okay.
You should definitely that should be
Easter egg.
unlockable. Yeah.
No, it could be there's like a radio station.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck is this? The game show? What's that?
It might even be in there. To be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, probably.
Game Schmo, which is our very clever parody of Game Pro. Oh,
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah,
And
yeah.
we did a Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Smack Up Edition, whatever review, and that was the last thing we did together until now. It was making these horrible things.
That is so cool.
Well, I
yeah.
think this is the best thing that you two have done together, but I gotta
You
watch
haven't
that
seen
first
Game
thing
Show.
now. I don't know. Yeah.
Might be
All
sitting
bets
on
are off
gold
until
here.
We also did a murder mystery called Ages 6 and Up. Starring both of us. I had mascara on my upper
Oxenfree, the
lip 'cause
sequel
I
to
needed a
that?
mustache. Yes, exactly.
Was that the prequel? Like,
Yes.
Here's the
Disney
thing. That's
event.
actually that's a very clever title.
Age
Game
6
Schmo isn't, but Ages 6 and Up is really funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I really want to get more into that, but really quickly, I want to talk
Sure.
about the GT Countdown we're doing this week. We're going to do the top 10 anticipated games of 2016.
Yeah, here we go.
Oxenfree did make the list because it came out too early. Usually for
God.
that first 2 or 3 weeks, but even better than just a silly top 10 list, you can see the review.
Yes.
Me praising this game that we're playing. You can check that out on our YouTube channel and on GameShows.com. But really quickly, and I also want to introduce Mr. Ian Hink. We haven't talked to Ian a lot during the show. How you doing, Ian?
Hi, good.
So you said Omar is playing this game. Is this game your jam? You think you're going to spend some time with Oxenfree?
Yeah, I want to play it. I gotta put it on my Mac.
Yeah, that's what my wife played it on. She had a good time. She just finished it
Yeah.
up last night. And how's the show going for you, Teddy? And everything was set up in here. The
It's
equipment
great.
setup didn't take very long.
Yeah. I walked in and the show before us was finishing, and I won't say who, but there were some pretty big people in here, and I was like, "Whoa, awesome!"
Barack Obama.
Yeah,
Barack
exactly.
Obama. And I was like, "Hey, let's have a barbecue," and he was like, "All
They're
right,
like, "No."
let's go to barbecue." It was great.
You don't want to have a barbecue right now, Kyle?
That was a whole. Ian's doing references to podcasts.
Oh, okay.
That one was for the fans.
Ah, okay. I
Deep
got it.
Yeah.
inside you.
Yeah, yeah.
The Beauty Boys.
Really briefly, I want to touch on our countdown that we're going to do this week, the top 10 anticipated games. We're doing a whole big anticipated thing right now. So next week, we're going to have our community countdown, the 10 games that you guys are anticipating. We're doing our ultimate game preview this week, where we're going through every genre, talking about all the awesome games that are going to come out this year. And we have 10 games on Friday that we are going to talk about specifically that we are really anticipating. But unfortunately, as always, one doesn't make the list. And number 11 this week was No Man's Sky.
Ouch.
No Man's Sky didn't make
That's
the
a
list,
snub.
Kyle.
That's officially a snub.
For anticipated.
Yeah.
But I think we all got in the room and we realized that there was not really much else they could do to sell this game at this point other than just give it to us.
Yeah.
And so I think that was it for anticipation. Anticipation is not just playing the game, but getting more trailers, getting other demos, anything, just anything you could say, any, little morsel of this game that you could give me. And the only morsel I want from No Man's Sky is No Man's Sky.
You know what we never talked about? Is Sean Murray was on the Colbert Show, on the Tonight Show, the Late Show, the one that Colbert hosts,
Okay.
and he played the game. I thought that was awesome.
It was
that
insane.
That was a
It was
segment on the
insane.
show.
Colbert's actually had a lot of very game-centric stuff
Yeah.
since he started his show, so it's
Wait, so,
appreciated.
Adam, you saw it?
Yeah. I mean, Colbert was like, "You are a living god,
Yeah, he called him
making
a god.
worlds."
Yeah.
It was crazy. I'm like, why aren't we on this show? I don't
Yeah, I wonder what the whole press angle is on Colbert's show as far as game content is concerned. If that was like one guy that came to Stephen Colbert with that
Oh, you mean
idea,
internally?
or Stephen
Yeah.
Colbert himself. Because if you see something Lord of the Rings related, like, okay, that was Colbert wanted to do that. But I wonder how that came up, because it would seem like something that we in the industry would want to know and are very curious to check out this game. Do you have an opinion, yay or nay, on No Man's Sky?
I cannot wait for it. I just still don't. I don't know what it is. I haven't followed
Right?
it closely enough. Or unless other stuff hasn't or has come out on it yet. But I'm a sucker for open world anything. I like Red Dead
Right
Redemption.
on.
I would just be
Right
walking
on.
around. I just like to wander.
Excuse me.
Seriously, Red Dead. I would play it, and I would just be there on the couch with a bottle of whiskey, and I would just be playing it, and then I would start
cowboy
a little
hat.
fire in a cowboy hat in real life as well, and I would wake up next to a fire in the middle of the woods, and just so not in the woods, but out in the desert, and I live for that stuff. So Fallout, I'm trying to get back into, and then
Okay.
I guess it's not necessarily an open world per se in No Man's Sky, as the same way that you can inhabit a lot of these other worlds, but I love wandering. I love space stuff. Yeah, I'm super into it.
Oxenfree is open island.
Fairly, yes.
I actually mentioned that in my review. I thought that was very interesting that the first time I brought up the map, there it is.
Yeah.
There's
just
little
right there.
pockets on the map that will mean more to you when you actually visit those areas, but the whole thing is there. There's not some weird, crazy, skull island that'll pop up in the back that you go to.
Or just very linear set pieces. Yeah, early on we were okay, how do we tell a story game that is very strongly scripted, but that certain conversations could happen anywhere? And that was another giant nightmare, but it worked out.
But I like that there was no fog of war. That
Right.
that it is kind of presented this is the island. Alex has been here before. This is actually a place that people go.
Yeah.
And
bad things usually don't happen.
Right.
And so the map itself doesn't look like welcome to the dark corner of whatever.
Yeah.
It's just no, it's a tourist map of the island. Yeah.
So No Man's Sky. But we've had some heated discussions on this stage, even about No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
About how
Oh, yeah.
what that game is, how we should be anticipating it. Ian, anything to say about No Man's Sky not being on our top 10 list this week?
I was surprised. I'm jazzed for it. It's probably that and Dark Souls 3 this year for me, but I mean, yeah, what else are we going to do? I just want the game to be out, so it makes sense.
Exactly. So there it is. This Friday, top 10 anticipated games of 2016. And also, I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it again at the end of the show. We have our top 10 community picks that'll be going up the following week. You can go to our forums right now. We'll be putting up a promo for that on Monday. You can also vote in the comments for that video. So you'll get many opportunities to vote on what you want, on what your anticipated games of the year are. Because You hate this list, don't you, Kyle? Anticipated.
Yeah, I think it's senseless.
Because it's ridiculous. And, like it's fun, for us to talk about stuff that that we are anticipating, so you can kind of gauge, what our content's going to be like this year. But I think more than anything, we're really curious what you guys think and how our picks line up. It's always kind of fun to compare those. You got something on the tip of your tongue, Kyle. Anything before we go to our trailer?
We make videos. We don't make content. All we do is videos.
Did I say content?
You said content.
Oh,
Like all we make all year long is videos. There's
we
nothing
make
outside of that.
We make the video content. They make the game content. We're all in that jazzy content biz. A very important part happening in the game right now. We're finally getting somewhere.
Oh yeah,
We're cracking it open.
Is a problem.
All questions will
So
be answered.
for those who don't know what's going on, the first, 20, 30 minutes or so of the game, you are just kind of hanging out on the beach with this this group of people, and you're unearthing some of the background of Alex and her story, and you're setting up some of your relationships in a way that people will either be pretty close to you or not necessarily. And then at one point, you and your new stepbrother decide to hop a fence and make your way back into this cave. And one of the things that we added to the game that we haven't talked about a lot yet, but is the radio, right? And the radio is kind of really the core mechanic that allows you to interact with these supernatural beings and the other side, because we didn't want a game that's just purely, walking around and talking. And so the radio ends up being a thing where on the island, all anybody knows initially is that if you tune in to various stations around the island, you can just hear some weird stuff, like just some weird anomalies and stuff. And then what happens is, in the mouth of this cave, you make your way back. Whoops! And now they've drowned and they're dead. You kind of make your way further and further back into this cave because you're hearing some really weird sounds, and then you carve a giant triangle portal to another dimension. You think into the sky,
As one does,
as people are known to do, and then you and your new stepbrother get spat out somewhere else on the island. You don't know where the other people are. And so the game very quickly transitions from this sort of like Stand By Me teen friendship thing to, oh, Siri turned on, to oh God, let's not die and we got to get out of here, and what happened.
which will hopefully happen very soon. We will get to in a moment. But right now we're going to cut away to a badass trailer. Kyle, I've said some not kind things about the advertising for Paragon.
Sure.
Paragon has not had great trailers.
Yeah.
Some of the last trailers were better than the other ones that they did before, but I'm going to put a badass Paragon trailer out there, because now we're getting somewhere.
Okay.
This is a gameplay trailer from Paragon called Mid Lane Push. And this is just an I didn't sell it very well. That's not, if I was working at Epic Games, I would not say the name of the trailer that way. Mid-Lane Push. But what you are about to see is some actual gameplay of characters going in. It will label what the characters' names are, what the names of the moves that they're doing, and how those work in gameplay. It is a very quick trailer, only 58 seconds, blink and you might miss it, but it is badass. Paragon Mid-Lane Push trailer, check it out. See, I really like, I think one of my favorite things about that trailer is I really like calling out the specific abilities,
Yeah.
especially for, people that are really investing, whether it's a fighting game or a MOBA or hero shooter or something. They're like, that's my guy. I know, just aesthetically, I know I want that guy.
That's a good
And
idea.
so you get to see like how those abilities work in combat and how they're
Yeah.
supposed to. We've lost a guest. Brittany
gone.
has stepped out for just a moment. Ian is requesting a chat. What's up, Ian?
It's funny. I feel the opposite, because that trailer made me less interested in that game.
Are you second guessing
Boom.
my trailer chat?
I'm just saying that the other trailer I was like, oh, okay, and now this trailer I'm like, oh, never mind.
You know what I want to say about it? I would
Ian's
say
out.
Mid-Lane Push, that title is targeted toward people who already love
MOBAs.
MOBAs.
That's
Yeah,
targeted towards
and-
mobile
yeah,
players
and I
for
think
sure.
that's a good idea. I honestly
I'm
think
out.
it's not a bad idea.
Out.
And you're done.
Out.
they had you at character designs, but once those character designs started using
Yeah.
powers,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
out.
No gameplay.
I want to talk about a trend that I'm curious if you were aware or care in the slightest that I feel Oxenfree kind of fits into this trend, and that is really small characters. I think it's very interesting. We're kind of slowly moving into this. You mentioned something that I wrote down earlier that I thought was a good example of that. I had it. Nope, it's gone. But Jotun was one where you have like a little tiny guy below. I think is a great example. Oh, Sword and Sorcery. Somebody brought that up in chat before the show started, and it's an interesting style, and it took me a little while to adjust to because I'm like, wow, are their lips moving actually in game?
Right. They do.
When they animate, yeah, I think it looked really close,
Yeah.
but they don't have the facial expressions or anything.
Little bits of facial expression.
Okay.
Very little. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'll let you finish the question,
Well,
then I'll answer. Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating. The point I made in the review is that it really brings in the atmosphere. That you can really see how isolated they are. When you go into a little cabin and the wall, the fourth wall goes away, you can look inside and see what's going on in there.
Yeah.
It's neat to not be okay. Now we're inside the comfort of this cabin. You can now see the trees behind it and other things happening, and sets up some really good scares. There's some things happening in the corner of the screen. I'm like not expecting something to pop up over there. But have you been observant of other games doing this, or was this something that just naturally fit the style of your game?
So only Below is really like Below for us. Pretty early on, we started to look at it and go, not necessarily that we just wanted small characters, but that it's really effective at feeling cinematic without camera cuts, without what's the language of cinema usually sort of has. And so it was kind of equal parts an efficiency of the size of our team choice and a creative choice, where it was like, how can we make this thing feel big and beautiful and awesome, but only have essentially one artist doing most of the art, like 90% of the art was done by Heather Gross. And so like when you look at, how can you make a game feel big and sweeping and enveloping and make the environment feel scary and at times like inviting and all this stuff, but at the same time not have it be in 3D, then that sort of pushed us in that direction. The other thing was just we wanted to do a game that as we are an indie studio, but we didn't want to fall into a lot of what other indie studios are doing. So like we didn't want to do a lot of pixel art or anything like that, even though we're fans of that and love how that stuff looks. It's just like we wanted to come up with a look that felt very different. So the choice was much more about the design decision of having multiple characters on screen and then going, how do we make it feel painterly and like a movie, but have only one person do it? And if the game were really tight, suddenly that makes you have different expectations of what the characters are going to look like and different expectations of how the environment should move and how much parallaxing should happen and stuff. So we just iterated on it for a while, for like a month.
Again, is this something that you think really fits, being on this island, having this many central characters to the story, or is this something, how did it go, basically, going with this style? Is this something you might see, the studio continuing on into other games that you make? Or is it just like, okay, that distant thing with the 5 people, that was fun, a fun experiment for this, and we'll finally get to make our, multiplayer shooter or whatever.
Yeah, I think our lead engineer, after all the work that he did, would love for us to do practically the exact same game again. Not the same size, but like there's a lot of custom stuff he made for this game. No, I think for us, like, we're very happy with the decisions that we made, but the next game could be totally different. Like I think there's elements of the decision or the conversation system and a lot of the systems that are sitting underneath it that will probably end up making their way into another game of ours. But I think we just want to make the right decision for like mechanically what makes sense for the next one. Like the tiny character thing is very much specific to this and specific to this story and specific to making Edward's Island feel like, this real place that you could go visit.
One thing that I liked, because I'm a fan of puppetry, is I felt that giving so much distance and being able to look at the entire scene and where all the characters were standing, and like you're saying, having no cutscenes ever, like really physically being present in all of the conversations, even just kind of like turning Alex from like looking at one person to the other, I felt like it was very rewarding for me. Like they take photos in some instances, throughout the story, and it was like I even watched like my wife doing it when she was playing it, like obsessively, like, okay, wait, I'm gonna stand right over here, and like it actually doesn't matter, like when you see the photo, like it's not based on where the characters are standing at the time. But it is kind of funny where you get in and you really feel, at least I did, I felt like I was really controlling Alex in how she would react, like when she would choose to turn away and walk away from people like towards the objective, or like I said, like who she would be facing when she was talking.
The puppetry thing, we've heard that before too. Like people feel like, I don't know if it must be the distance basically, but that you feel almost like you're directing the scene and not directing it in a Until Dawn, like I'm directing multiple people way, but just directing, where people should go and how they should kind of behave. And so, like, in the case of, all the other characters in the game, it was a challenge to make sure that their blocking always felt interesting too, because if you just have them just kind of standing there, it's boring. So at the party, you want them like, go grab a beer out of the cooler, go stoke the fire, go throw a rock in the water, and so being able to interact with that seems like a pretty fun experience to watch. I think the other thing that we found as we were developing it was like as often as possible, how do we make people have like a couple of things to do at the same time? Like the game really sort of sings when you are, like in that beach scene, for example, it's like, okay, you can stoke the fire while you're talking. You can throw a rock while you're, talking. You, later on when you're dealing with other stuff, you're constantly sort of scanning the environment for other things to tune into and stuff. And so neither, talking or those objectives that I'm talking about are the hardest things in the world. They're certainly not. But when they're together, it's like, I can walk and chew gum at the same time or whatever, like it's just like a couple of sort of basic interactions working together always seems fun.
You know what's really crazy to me? That you use a term like blocking, because I feel like we would talk to a lot of game developers and say like, do you ever think about the blocking in your scenes? And they would say like, no, what do you, no, I make video games, do you know what I mean? And so it's interesting to hear like theater terms like that. And I'm curious, like, you or Adam, like, is that like something a part of your background, or is like, that's so tricky? Again, like making a scene look good to like an audience is like a whole other skill outside of like game design.
You first.
All right. So it came out of a lot of necessity with this game, I feel, because the camera is so far back.
Mm-hmm.
And it could get kind of dull just watching this very static shot, or when the camera would just kind of very gracefully just follow the characters along and go exactly where they're going. And we were like, God, why aren't these scenes really working well? But when you would just add in these little touches of having the characters stand in different places and have them have their own little ecosystems of things that they want to do apart from what you were trying to do. And then on top of that, adding in just small little camera moves and having the camera maybe stick to particular axes instead of just being like a one-to-one with you, just made it feel more alive and more directed, I guess.
But like your past, I think you were also asking, like in your past, what gave you that skill set to understand blocking prior to this game?
Nothing.
Yeah. Really?
At all.
It's just like when you're doing it, it's just kind of like makes sense suddenly. Like, oh, I should put this.
It was a
here and
lot
like
of playing it and seeing what we wanted to do. I mean, the only other thing in my past, I just made a big comic book, so I was just kind of used to seeing things in little squares.
How to frame.
And kind of making it, just having a design sense in that way.
You should plug it. What's your comic book?
Duncan the Wonder Dog. It's a big 400-page graphic novel about why animals are cool. So if you're interested in that, check it out.
And interesting, and he's downplaying everything. I'm just gonna answer for him. This dude made an extraordinary graphic novel that it's extremely cinematic. When you look at it, it feels like you are poring over a giant trilogy, and it's also like really like in Duncan the Wonder Dog, the whole conceit is like, what if animals understood and could communicate that we do? So the way that we do. So it's like, okay. And it's not silly, right? It's like, no, there's the cows waiting to be slaughtered, not being happy about it. And there's like monkey terrorist organizations, and like it gets pretty crazy. And so it's a really serious book that came out 2-3 years ago, and it's visually beautiful. And so and like he's a giant movie fan. Any like super movie database up in his head. And then I went to film school, so I think there's just it's sort of in our DNA, and it's not specifically anything that we have like exercised that muscle as heavily as we have on this game now, especially because again there's elements of that visual language that we kind of handcuffed ourselves to not be able to do. Like we can't cut, we can't do certain things. So we have to make sure that these shots feel a certain way, but it's kind of hard to make it scary when the characters are this big and you can't cut. So we did a lot of what you're talking about, like play with stuff in the corner or bring in vignettes that like might not naturally be happening in the world, but that do darken the rest of the scene for the characters and for the
or
player.
really loud noises.
There's a lot of that good
Works.
stuff too.
It does, yeah.
Bam!
Yeah. I think it's time to get into Community questions.
Great. Okay.
You
let's
got
do
enough,
it.
Kyle?
Oh yeah, we
Are
got
you
a lot.
locked and loaded?
I'm stressed because of how many good questions.
I'll cut
we
you
got.
off.
Lots of really great. Okay, absolutely. Brittany, our first question is for you. This is from Impact 93. Was it strange for you to move from a AAA game like Borderlands, playing a character like Angel, to doing an indie 2D style game like this? Do you prefer one process over the other? Oh, and be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutally honest.
I guess we just want to know what's the difference. What is it like? Different, like how are those two
This-
projects different?
I had a very unique experience with Borderlands, just because they plucked me from when I was really young and in school, and I worked with them every day developing Angel for about a month before we actually filmed.
Whoa.
And that doesn't usually happen in AAA games at all. I feel like you just get hired, you go to the booth, then they're done with you. So I would have to say this has been more intimate. I've liked seeing the process of an indie game like this and being a part of it and really being able to see the struggles and the hurdles that they have to go through and having a closer relationship with them than a big studio where it's a bureaucracy and you can't really do. You're like, hey guys, I'm here, and they're like, yeah, all right. So I guess both are really cool to work on, but indie games have been a little bit more intimate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If intimacy is your thing.
Yeah.
Whoever asked that question, just put that into reference.
Yeah.
Intimacy.
If you seek intimacy, go to indie games. Okay, we have another question. Were you ever afraid the game might not do as well? Oh, okay, so this is a tough question. Here we go. This is from Mickey's Advocate. I like that name. Were you ever afraid the game might not do as well as you would hope due to oversaturation of story-heavy games like Life is Strange or anything by Telltale?
Yes.
You're like,
But that's
oh my
gone,
gosh,
right?
we
That's-
work it up there?
Well, yeah, so we weren't really scared of it. We were more inspired by it because there's not really a ton of them. And the ones that are out there are doing it pretty similarly to each other. So we just kind of went, the two things that we wanted to do was go, one, okay, there is a market clearly for it. And those games that just got brought up are both executed well and have done well in the market. But at the same time, that's not the only way to skin the cat of story games, like there's a lot of other ways to approach it. And so I think the first thing that we wanted to do was go, okay, how do we mechanically change it so it's not just like subtitles at the bottom of the screen, you're going through menus and like find a way to embed communication into the actual core mechanic to make us feel as different as possible. And the other thing was just telling a story that was like exactly the type of story that we wanted to tell and that we cared about, because from the day that we started working on the story, we were like, let's make something that's not reactive to the rest of the industry. Like, let's not be scared of it, and let's just go in on a specific type of story that we would want to tell. So I think it was less scared of it. We were aware of it. And when, so Life is Strange got announced when we were like maybe a quarter of the way into development, and it was like, here's a game about a girl in the Pacific Northwest with blue hair, and we're like, God damn it. Like, are you kidding me? And we actually intentionally stayed, we haven't played it because we were like, it's gonna taint how we approach our game, and now we're gonna go play it. But from what we've heard from people, there's such different
They're
games
very
that
different
it's like,
games,
okay, yeah.
You can
So-
appreciate, but you can even play one and then immediately go into the other and appreciate
they
them for
can
totally
coexist.
different things.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we're just more scared of like, is the game going to do well at all? Because it's 5 of us, and we really want to keep this going, and we're really passionate about what we're doing, and so that was more of it. But I think we were like inspired by the fact that those guys are continuing to do well.
So I have a even like harder question that's technically involved with this one. Here we go. This is from the Hashtagonist. Does the constant
Great name, by the way. Sorry.
Hashtagonist? Yeah, it is a good name. Does the constant expectation of Steam sales influence your pricing model? And do you feel these sales put too much pressure on developers to drop their prices too soon, potentially reducing revenue they need to sustain themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Yeah, like reacting to all of the changes that are happening in players' expectations of what they buy and how much it should cost and all these things, and at what point you should do sales and things like that. Yeah, it's very hard. And like in our gut, the ideal scenario is not to be continually reacting to all of that and to just go like, here's the price, here it's what it's going to cost in a year, it's what it's going to cost in 2 years, maybe catch it on sale. So yeah, it's a little bit scary. I think that we because we're on other platforms too, that even makes it more challenging because it's like there's different price point expectations on one versus another. Versus like if we were to let's say we tried to bring it out on mobile right now. There's no way you're putting out a $20 game on mobile and it's doing well. So like. Yes, the answer to that is yes. And how do we deal with it? We're just making it up as we go right now. Like we are, and not just like foolishly, but yeah, we are trying to make the right decisions for when and how, if we ever do adjust the price and do sales and stuff. But it's not in the foreseeable future. Like I think we've made I don't know countless decisions on this game that. We're just like we got to make that call and we're going to live with it and go forward. So I don't feel bad about any of the decisions we've made so far, and I hope we continue to do it the right way.
Cool. Thank you for a blunt answer to a tricky question. Next is from Tall Guy Alec. What was the first game you played that story brought a legitimately emotional reaction from you?
That's good.
That's a
Adam,
good
you
question.
first.
Let's get emotional, Adam.
Yeah.
He's just sobbing.
Yeah.
Super Mario 2!
Super Mario when it was all a dream. Probably Final Fantasy Tactics, I would say, is the first game. I really love how convoluted and complex that story was and how insane it got. And and I really got into the characters and this history of it. And I would say that's the first one.
Ian, you're a Tactics fan.
Love it.
You love them Tactics.
Did it make you
cry?
emotional?
Yeah, mostly I would just grind to max out my calculator and cheat through the game. So,
Oh, good.
but yeah, I love it.
Brittany, you.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII. I would have to say was the first time I cried at a game. The first time I had a crush on someone in a game. Like
12 polygons a man.
I'm gonna marry Cloud. Yeah. Now I look at him. I'm like, he has black hands.
What was appealing about Cloud? What was it?
He was like so edgy. Yeah. He was like the Justin
He's literally
Bieber.
edgy. He's just triangles. Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, whoa, the floppy hair or spiky hair. Back then I thought it was floppy.
the PS1 didn't flop, that's for sure.
In my imagination. But yeah, that was definitely that game for me.
It's funny. That was the one that I think I was supposed to feel that way when I was playing it. I was like, "This is it. It's a movie. This is gonna be so exciting," and I felt no emotion from it. And then, but I faked it. Like I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome." And then Metal Gear Solid, I think, was the first one that I felt not emotional in a sobbing way, but in a like, "Oh, this game is grabbing me in a way that a game hasn't really before." Like just heightening my feelings while playing the game. And then I think the first one I really felt emotion was Eco or Ico, however we pronounce it.
We prefer Eco at this table.
Eco, let's go Eco. I'm sure this is you just stabbed me. Like Eco legitimately made me really feel for that character. And I can't think of a game since then other than maybe Colossus, which made me feel for the horse. But like,
sure.
I don't think there's too many verbal games that have gotten me, that have really drawn me in too much. I think it's
Dragon Age made me.
Yeah,
I was
I
like
bet.
in college with a tub of ice cream. Like, no, I don't want
The first one, Dragon Age 1?
Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of characters, yeah.
Yeah.
Those BioWare, they love to just get you all wrapped up in there and then just like, boop, that guy's dead. Nope, you can't put that person in your party anymore.
I love that. We got 3 great answers from that question. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. How much time do we have? How many more questions can we do?
You got 7 minutes.
Okay.
2 questions, maybe 3. But that depends on you.
Okay.
Oh. The topper.
I'll shut up now.
Okay. Hunter Jawa. So this one's for Adam. Here we go. Oxenfree has been praised for writing teenage characters realistically and intelligently in a way that other games seem to struggle with. Why do you think that games have such a hard time portraying teen characters? And what was your approach to this challenge?
So, I obviously can't speak for anyone else who's ever tried to write teen games, but my guess would be that it's because they're trying to approximate the mimetic nature of how a teenager talks. So trying to get in like weird slang that maybe someone my age wouldn't understand, or just trying to make them feel youthful and kind of in substantial ways. And when I wrote it, I cheated and didn't write them as teenagers at all. I just wrote them as people, and hopefully they were complicated and complex and interesting. And I did never really think of them as teens. I just always thought of them as guys and gals. So
I think that's like a huge writing tip. You know what I mean? That's an incredible thing to say. I
hope
just wrote
so.
them as people. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I really liked that, there's a lot of like supernatural or sci-fi films that I'll see, and something weird will happen, and like all the characters just kind of like go along with it, and I'm just like, no one's gonna comment on that. Like nobody in the rooms can be like, that's weird that happened. And I liked a lot of that was in this game. I felt the reactions were very honest when things would happen, and that you were given those options as Alex too to say those, like, okay, something, I don't know, you guys didn't recognize it, but something weird just happened.
Right.
This next question, it's something that our audience in particular is very sensitive to. This comes from the Banana Forklift Killer. How much goo is in this game?
Is it blood?
Just
goo. How much
Just
goo is in the game?
The
Ectoplasm.
Nickelodeon
Is there any
slime.
ectoplasm?
There isn't, I don't think. I
Okay.
don't think there's any goo.
It depends. Actually, there's some reflective surfaces that are that
Of a liquid nature.
are very odd, as you've seen in the game. So could that qualify as goo? Like
We
that
don't know what
little-
triggers these goo people. We don't know what sets them off, but it sounds like it's going to be safe.
There's goo. There's a little bit of goo.
Okay, there's a little bit of
No, there's no goo. There's no goo. Do you want goo? There's goo. If not, there's no goo.
Okay,
text engineer. Put
Tomorrow,
goo
yeah.
in.
Goo
Oxenfree
now.
gets a 2
Content
gig goo update.
Yeah. That's disgusting.
next question. This comes from Joetown17. This is our juicy question. I read on the Oxenfree Wikipedia page that Robert Kirkman is planning to help adapt Oxenfree into a film and a web series. First of all, holy crap, Robert Kirkman. Second of all, is this true? If so, how did this come to be?
It is true. It is exciting. It's crazy. We announced it last week. 2 weeks ago. That we're partnering with Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's company, and the thought is really for us to work with them as on the game front. They'll sort of help market the game, and they'll get it out there and promote it and communicate it in fashions that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. And they're this very creator-driven studio, obviously with Kirkman's work and a lot of the other comics that they've been doing. And so they looked at us and went, okay, we had talked to a bunch of different game publishers and didn't really need that or necessarily want that. But Skybound was like, how do we amplify everything that you guys are already doing it and in sort of the best, most natural way possible? So one, it's help us out with the game, but then the other part that's extra ridiculously exciting is, we're in the early stages of developing the film for Oxenfree as well as some merchandise. So it's crazy.
That is
it's
really
like a
crazy.
dream come true. Yeah, it's incredible. Especially because they're not looking to just sort of like take it and work on it and spit it back out as something else. Like, we are all collaborating ever since this deal started. We are all very natural collaborators. So it's great. It feels exciting.
But your game is just barely out. Like, how did that all happen?
So it started, apparently, Kirkman saw the first trailer that we did. And I know the president over there. I had known him before of their interactive group. And we had talked for a while, but then he hits me up. He's like, hey, Robert saw this trailer for this thing that you guys are working on, and he's like, this looks awesome. Do you know these people? And he's like, yeah, I know Krankle. Yeah, I'll reach out to him. And so we've been talking for months about it since then, just about they knew very deeply what the story was and the gameplay mechanics, and even we signed this thing way before the game came out. So it's a good vote of confidence and faith from them as well. But
That's the power of a trailer. Your
Exactly.
trailer really showed your game off, and that was enough to give that person that impression. It was pretty crazy.
It's super exciting.
It's what I've been telling you for years, Kyle.
The power of the trailer.
It's so important.
No, he saw it on a horror site too, not even through game stuff. I think it was Dread Central or
Probably.
maybe I don't know where it was specifically. But what
They
did you think I said? He saw it on a horror site.
You really got to pronounce it. Yes,
Horror.
Yes, which one of those? But so it's just on some blog that's just like, you might be into this game if you're into this kind of. That's so crazy.
He saw the trailer. It was getting a good amount of buzz from the first trailer, and the first trailer was very. It just was pretty obscure and kind of hinted at certain things. And so I think the two things were, one, he loved the vibe of it, and two, he saw how we were handling the dialogue system. And obviously he has a long-lasting, strong relationship with Telltale, so he's familiar with how to handle dialogue. And he's like, oh, that's an interesting new take on it. And so that was what kicked it off 6 months ago.
We do a show called Trailer Score where we score trailers. We scored the debut of Oxenfree.
We were like,
And
we
hugging.
saw it.
And
Yeah.
we
Wait, were you honestly? You
I
saw
swear to
it?
God, this is not
No, we
sarcastic.
did. No,
this is
we-
the first.
we-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut
watched
you
it,
off.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
This
no,
is
screw it. I have to say.
we
Go
were
on,
so
go on.
excited that you guys saw it and reviewed it well, and I can't forget who said it was trailer of the week. There were.
It
That
was
might
like
have been our.
two,
That might have been our.
three
Yeah, that might have been our
reviews.
badass trailer of the week. I think.
Yes.
It was,
So-
yeah. Yeah, because that was a
I
show
can't-
that
Somebody was
I
like,
watched.
Oh, I
maybe
hope
dude.
it wasn't me. I hope it wasn't me. I honestly can't remember.
But we were up against like
It was
Assassin's,
like Assassin's
Creed
Creed was
19
one of the
and
trailers.
like it looked
was ridiculous.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think more than anything, it seemed like something different. It seemed like something unique, and I think that's why I wanted to grab these guys and bring them in the room and be like, "What do you think of this?" I think this is pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to wrap up the show. Although,
Can I get in one question?
One more,
real
really quick.
Okay, this comes from Defeater Eater. This is a very important question. Do you like Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door?
Is that the end of the question?
I like it enough.
What does that mean?
Meaning, it's worthy of being a Mario game, I think.
But
But it's not great, I don't think.
as a writer, what do you see wrong with Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door?
Nothing as a writer. I don't know. I honestly, I haven't played it in so long that I can't even remember. But I remember being like, it was pretty good. It was good enough, but not great.
Wait, which Paper Mario is that? It's not the first Paper
It's the
Mario.
GameCube
right?
one.
It's the
yeah.
GameCube
Yeah.
one.
GameCube one. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely bought that. I definitely played through half of it.
There's a
and
train
definitely just
level.
Stopped.
There's the wrestling. You're like in a wrestling ring.
Yes, there's a lot of
I don't remember
stuff
that at
going
all.
Yeah.
I skipped the GameCube phase.
All of the games.
You skipped the GameCube.
I just kind of stuck with Nintendo 64 and PlayStations my whole life.
Nintendo's writers are actually awesome. Like the fact that they're like, or the English translations. I have no idea
Treehouse.
if in
Yeah,
Japan
yeah.
it's horrible, but yeah, like it's just horrible there, and then it comes over here. It's amazing. Yeah, they're great.
Cool.
Writing wise.
That's a very assertive answer. I like it. A very
Yeah,
clear
yeah,
answer.
absolutely, yeah.
Thousand-Year Door. I
It's
appreciate
an
that.
important issue. Everyone in chat really cares about this.
I'm going to talk really quickly about stuff that's coming up on game trailers this week. If y'all have the time to watch it, we're going to be playing Monopoly tomorrow.
Yes.
Monopoly's on PlayStation 4. Is that on Xbox One as well? Is it on PC and everything?
I gotta assume so. I gotta assume that's not a big exclusive.
But this is we're not like breaking out the pieces like on a board. This is like the next gen. This is as advanced as Monopoly can get. We streamed a couple times. People wanted more. We're gonna be playing that again tomorrow. We are not streaming on Friday. We're taking the day off on Friday. We are in the middle of our ultimate game preview, which wraps up in our top 10 anticipated games of 2016 on Friday, as I mentioned earlier. We have something of a final bossman this week.
yeah,
You did a thing.
we can call it like
You
an
made a video. You
editorial.
talked about something.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Do you want me to plug it?
Uh,
You're ready to move on.
I think
okay.
I think that was it. I think that was the plug.
It's called I Don't Like Parappa the Rapper 2. I've finally taken that game down a peg. I played it over the weekend. I had a bad time, and I wanted to talk about it.
We have another Huber hype. We have another mandatory update this weekend. I'm assuming, Mr. Ian Hank, mandatory happening.
Yeah, probably. I gotta figure that out. I forgot
All right.
we weren't doing Friday, so
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Like as I mentioned, our community top 10 anticipated of 2016 is going to be next Friday. So jump on the site and give us your votes on that. Oxenfree the review popped up on the site when we were throwing up 3 other reviews, so I apologize for that. We have reviews of Oxenfree, Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, you and Assassin's Creed every time.
Every time, Buttonheads.
Wherever you go, if it's trailers or releases. Spoiler alert: Oxenfree is better than Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. Resident Evil 0 HD and
Sorry,
Dragon's Dogma
Stone.
Dark Arisen. Those reviews just recently went up on our YouTube channel and at GameTrailers.com. You
Can I
check
plug
them out.
something real quick?
Go for it.
Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time, I'm going to be guesting on a Dungeons & Dragons regular podcast that Jash does. Jash is that YouTube channel. So they're starting a whole initiative called Jash Play. We're going to host it on this Twitch channel. So tomorrow at 3 p.m. you can come here and we'll direct you there to see me play Dungeons & Dragons with some
Yeah, don't screw that up.
people. Ian's got a plug.
can I plug something?
Yeah.
Wow.
Next week, do we know which day yet, Kyle? Monday?
Yes, dude. We'll do that Monday. Yes.
Okay. So Monday, I've been making a little RPG for no reason, and we're gonna stream it. I'm gonna have Ben or Brad or somebody stream it, and then we're just gonna give it away to you for free. You can just have it, because whatever.
Wait, did you
that'll
say
be
That's a good
Monday.
business model,
Did
right?
you say the word
Right, Sean? Okay.
RPG Maker yet?
RPG Maker MV.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably full of bugs, but it's free, so whatever.
But you can have it.
You can have it. You
That's
have
why.
to
That's
have
when you give away
Free
something
QA.
for free. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you can't fix those bugs, you're like, we should reconsider our pricing model.
We need more plugs. What do you
Plugs.
guys?
What do you
plug?
guys plug?
There's some game out. It's called Assassin's Creed. Please go buy it. No, go buy our game. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Oxenfree, you could go to oxenfreegame.com. So we're out on Xbox and PC and Mac right now in the Steam store. Windows 10 very soon, right around the corner. If you want to follow us on social, we're at Night Schoolers, NIGHT Schoolers. And then I'm at Sean Krankel, SeanKrankel.
Oh, I'm on Twitter. Oh my gosh. Okay. You have to spell it right though. At Brittany Johnson, BRITANI.
Is that correct?
That's so right.
You didn't up for long.
That
Snuck it
You
away.
didn't put it up for like 1 second.
You have no idea
we don't
how
need to-
often that gets messed up. So often.
To
So
be
I don't
fair,
even
I
like.
just
I'm like,
copied
oh.
it from Brandon's email.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did it right.
So don't
Yeah.
even need to spell.
I-
Perfect.
I do not have a perfect track record when it comes to spelling people's names correctly on the show.
you do
so
not.
I've
No,
got it
you
right.
do not.
Yeah.
What about that guy?
Anything you're gonna plug, sir?
Oxenfree.
Yeah.
It's what's cool right now. Get it, everybody.
So what's cool right now?
Yeah, that's about it.
It's on fleek. That's not in the game, thank God.
Yeah.
I
No.
didn't say that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's that
Teenage
good teenage writing that they're talking about. There's none of that.
Were there any moments where Adam wrote something and you were like, no, dude?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Alright.
But really
A
fast.
lot.
Do we have 30 seconds?
Yes,
10
totally
seconds?
do.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
He always has these references to things that are from like 1930. So he has the opposite issue of teenage writing. There was
like
one
everybody says box social, right? Like, we're party. Come
No, there
on.
was a scene where we were working with Erin Yvette, who plays Alex in the game, and we're Skype directing her over Skype, and we're sitting there, and she's like, "Okay, so I'm excited. I won something. Like I won a round of Truth or Slap, and I'm supposed to say shoe money tonight. What is that?" And Adam's like, shoe money tonight. And we're like, "The hell are you talking
That always
about?
works good.
Shoe money
That always
tonight."
works good in direction. Just repeating the line.
What
You know.
stupid shoe money tonight? And then I'm Wikipediaing it. It's like shoe money tonight, 1932. Yeah, cha cha. And I'm like, who would say this? Nobody would say this. So there's a few of those lines in there.
There's enough lines that they got in. Yeah, so it's fine.
But that's it. No,
God.
it's all still incredible writing.
Yeah.
He's an incredible
It's
cousin
just
and a
10%
great
of the
scribe.
lines. Yeah.
Well, I didn't get any shoe money. I lost Truth or Slap big time. I lost that immediately.
Did you get slapped?
I got
Did Carissa
slapped.
slap you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got slapped.
When she
I'll never
asked.
forget it.
So there's actual stakes to that. It's
Yeah.
a mini game even.
Yes.
Cool.
And
That
it
game really
actually-
wanted me to hit
all of
Clarissa,
those
I'm telling
things
you.
lead up to stuff later, even Truth or Slap. It's ridiculous.
Very
yeah.
cool.
It's ridiculous, everybody. Oxenfree, you can check it out now. It came out last week. You can watch the review on Game Trailers, and you can check the game on Xbox, PC, and Mac. Thank you for coming by. It was really, I think this is the first time ever actually on the show that we've had a developer and a voice actor from the game.
Sweet.
Thank
And that's
you.
been, it really is a treat. It's really nice to get your perspective, and you've been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for playing the game.
Of course. My pleasure.
How were you? Were you just being casual the whole time? Were you trying to hustle through it?
I wanted to hustle to this specific part.
Okay, so we haven't gotten to spoilers yet. So we've been in the clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like the perfect time to stop. It was just scary and weird, and now we're good.
Well, if you guys are going into the weekend, if you we were saying 4 hours minimum.
Yeah.
So if you get home from
4 to
work,
6
and
hours.
sit down at 7 or 8. You can
It's
maybe
like- yeah,
possibly
it's
fire
good.
through it in one night.
Yep.
And the game takes place largely at night. So it is a good creepy game to play well into the evening. So
Yes.
hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for coming by, and best of luck.
Thank
on
you
watching
again.
the game.
Thank you.
Thank
And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.